Hi. Do you have the cash that you need for your agency during this crisis? I'm Ron Tompkins. I direct a nonprofit in New York City. I own Turnaround Nonprofit Coaching, which helps nonprofits in stress. And I made this video on cash for a few of my friends and decided to share it as well during this stressful time. I've got five numbers I want to talk about. And the first one is, do you know how much cash you have in the bank today? It's amazing to me how many people, leaders, CEOs, executive directors, try to manage their agency and they have no idea how much cash they have in the bank. And the cash that you particularly need to protect your cash for payroll, because the least forgiving people in your life is not the government, even with taxes, and it's not the bank. It's really staff members who don't get paid when they have done the work and they're expecting now that you will treat them fairly with compensation. So that I'm sorry to announce, but the reason that you get paid more than everybody else is we expect you to protect the cash, and that starts out with knowing it every day. Let's try a second number. Have you taken deposits for programs that you now have canceled or may cancel in the future? This is creating havoc in the service industries because we all live with that float of money that has come in for programs that we expect to do it. And then we did not expect a crisis like this to come along. And some of the for-profit companies are not handling this that well. Airlines who don't want to give back tickets that they've collected money for and now are not operating the planes or going there is useless anyway. Cruise ships who have collected hundreds, millions of dollars of deposits on trips. There's only 6 cruise ships left in the world globally on the water today. So you need to know exactly how much you owe your clients. It's an unexpected blow. And you may have to, what do you do if you don't have enough to give them back their deposit? Then you have to get on a cheap video like this one, which costs very little to produce, and just say to all of your clients, um, here's my plan. Here's how I'll manage it. I need your patience and your heart to get through this, and I promise I'll make it good. But don't ignore them because you may not know how much you owe them, but believe me, they do. Let's see, how much cash do clients, donors, and government contracts owe to you? Because in a time like this, people start to slow down those kinds of payments to you, and you cannot afford that. So maybe you've been waiting for 4 weeks for government to pay on a contract. Start calling them every day to try to get that down to 3 weeks. And you may say, well, I called and they said no. Call every day, I said. This is not a social engagement. You need to keep your valuable mission alive. And if it involves calling somebody, from my own background, the Bible has an example with a widow and an unjust judge. And it says that the judge did not care at all for justice, but she went every morning outside his house, called up to his bedroom window, and pleaded for justice. Finally, after many days of this, he was so tired of being wakened early every morning by her calling for justice. She wasn't calling him names. She wasn't being angry or anything like that. She just kept saying, please give me what I need and what I should have. And it says one morning he decided to do it because he was so tired of being awakened at the crack of dawn. So you've got to keep getting that AR number down, the money that people owe you. You got to try to push hard to make it shorter so you've got the cash for payroll. And now what about, okay, now let's get on the other side of this. Let's pretend for a moment it's September and you've got your programs back in operation. It's December, your programs are going. It's possible that your programs may not start at the level that they were before. And that's because we all got scared. We got scared of the mail, don't want to bring in germs. We got scared of other people and social distancing. So now let's say July 1st, the governor, the president, everybody says, everything's back, come to the restaurants, come do everything. It would not surprise me, especially with discretionary places, if you own a restaurant, I think people are going to come back very slowly. And China is finding that out right now, that after they open the restaurants again, people have not flocked back in. They are still scared that there might be germs there that would affect their family. Nonprofits usually are not involved in discretionary business. We're involved in business that's more inelastic, and sometimes in a crisis, like a food bank, we have negative elasticity. Our demand goes up just when everything else is ramping down. So let's assume that we're back in September, we're back in December. I want you to plan from just two numbers. And you say, Ron, well, I'm not a financial person, and most of my friends are not, but two numbers is not too hard to work with. And the first number is in September and then again in December, how much money do you expect that people will owe you or give you? In other words, you're doing a program again, you earn the money from them. Some of them will give you the cash right away. Some of them will say, well, give me a couple more weeks or something like that. So add both those numbers together. What is your income for September? Do it again for December. What's your income? Now divide those numbers each by 2. You're thinking division. Yes, and this is not even long division, it's short division. So for example, 100,000 is going to come in September, divide by 2, 50,000. A million is going to come in September, divide by 2, 500,000. You see, I can do it in my head. Well, of course, I had very nice numbers to work with. So that second number, that smaller number, that's the maximum you can spend on paying everybody in the company, including yourself. Because we have found out through trial and error, mostly error, that nonprofits have to keep a ratio of about 2. What does that number mean? That means that for every dollar I pay myself or any one of my staff, I'm going to get $2 in from the people who owe me money. Well, where does that second dollar go? Well, that's the dollar that pays the rent, it pays for the material, it pays for your copier and for your Zoom account and phone, everything else going on in there. And as long as you keep that ratio of 2, $2 coming in, $1 going out in compensation, you probably will do quite well. And even if you need some extra cash here and there, you will get back on your feet. Now, sometimes, and I especially see this with nonprofits where they hate to lose people or they hate to terminate people, that ratio can get down, it can get down to 1.6 depending on the kind of sector you're in nonprofit work. But I've seen it get down to 1.4, 1.3, 1.2. And at that point, I can think of 1.3, for example. That was one of my own program directors. The ratio got down to the point where the director could not afford to buy pencils, paper, and pens for the program. And we had to go to other departments that had extra supplies and give them supplies. So 1.3, if that's the ratio you've got, then one of your jobs as the executive director is really to attend to that ratio or you won't be sustainable. And then the last thing is think about the bills that you're paying. Which ones can you defer for an extra week? So for example, you owe the telephone company $100. Maybe you can defer it an extra week. And what that's going to do, if you're doing it with a significant number of your bills, it might add 5,000, 10,000 into your cash account. And you say, well, Ron, that's just a one-time thing. Yes, you got to maintain that every month, but having a one-time insertion of cash right now might mean the difference between success and failure in making your payroll. So those are just 5 quick ideas. How much cash do you have in the bank? Do you owe money to clients for programs you have not run? What was the third one? Collecting money that people owe you faster. Making sure you're not paying out too much in payroll so you keep the agency sustainable. Don't think just about this crisis for 2 months. You've got to think about September and December. And then lastly, what about the bills where you owe somebody else money? Can you delay payment or ask for a concession from a landlord? Do something like that so that you preserve your cash for payroll. Keep your people together to get through this time, and then we'll go from there. Hope this has been helpful, and see you soon.